Today's another problem. This time it's on my car. My either fuel system and or ignition is intermittently dropping out. I'm pretty sure it is the MSD box, and I'm going to make some changes to verify and test that. And I already know about grounding the white wire and making it spark, which it'll do. The problem with this is it is intermittent. And I'll be driving along and it just like craps out and then comes back to life, or I'll start it back up and it'll run and then die. And I've done data logs with my HP system and also a system log which shows me my Dual Sync Distributor is working and I'm seeing a pulse. I still have fuel pressure, etc., etc. So I am now going to take and put my old ready to run distributor in. I'm going to make up some pigtails so I can plug into my existing harness back here, pop this off, and then I'm going to do another test. And if it craps out again, that'll eliminate the MSD box, or excuse me, it'll eliminate the Dual Sync Distributor as a problem, but still being inherent, I can then take and bypass the CD box, change some wiring, and run the Holley directly as if it didn't have a CD box in it at all. And then if it runs fine, then we'll know exactly that's the problem, because MSD has told me, oh, they're either good or they're bad. I've never seen that happen. Yeah, they go bad and they just quit, but an intermittent and inherent problem, you know, I'm just going to make sure before I call them and say, hey, I want to send this back and have it refixed. So we'll see what's going on. Stay with me. All right, I'm going to undo my ignition harness. This is from the Dual Sync Distributor. This goes to the Holley HP, which is in the back. So I'm going to undo this. And then this is my power from the ignition here going into this plug. This white wire goes back to trigger the CD box. So we're going to undo that. This is the power to terminal A10 on my HP, and the white's the trigger A6, which we're not going to use. And this yellow looped wire I left in my harness in case I ever had to go to stock ignition, which I may do on a test. But I'm going to put a jumper in here that I made. I'll show you in a minute. And then we're going to run this up to the distributor, and then we're going to bypass the dual sync, and I'm going to put in my ready to run. Okay, this is my jumper harness that I just made. This is the Dual Sync Distributor, this is my MSD ready to run. So it's plugged, ready to go. That'll be power. That's going to be the trigger off to the CD box, and this is the ground. So that is going to get plugged in here to this side. This will be my ground. I'll ground to the block. Let me get this out of the way here. And then this will plug into my ignition side. So this will come from the chassis. So there's the power, which is going to come up here and feed the MSD distributor. And also it's wide in the terminal block there. And that's going to go out and then power the MSD box. And then the white wire from the MSD is going to come back here on the orange side, come back down to the distributor, and that's going to trigger the CD box. And this will be a ground that I'm just going to attach to the coil bracket at the block. So that'll take care of this. And then on the ignition that I unplugged from the Holley, this will go back in. And this is the crank trigger signal. And basically right now I'm just going to use a jumper. My CD box might have a 6AL2, and it doesn't have the spade terminal out the side. So basically I'm just going to use one of these tap a circuit doohickeys. I hate these things, but for testing it'll be fine. I'm going to clamp it over my gray wire, and then this will get plugged into that, and then that'll send the trigger to the HP and let that run. All right, I've got my harness in. So here again is power from the chassis here coming up through my adapter into the plug, which is powering the Holley HP right here, then traveling up to the distributor. I'll show you that. I just routed it back underneath my Victor Jr. And then the orange wire that's coming out here is going over to trigger the white wire to the MSD box. And so up here is the harness coming through. This is grounded over at the distributor to the block. So there's my ground. And then under here is my little TAPA circuit. Right there, as you can see, and it's just in my gray wire from my tack. And that again is in the Holley ignition circuit, which is right here. So my dual sync is out. This is all back to an MSD ready to run with a CD box. There's one other step I have to do, and I'll run through that, and that is going to be to reload a tune file to correspond with this distributor setup. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is change my file on the ECU. So I have a ready to run file that I had already previously made, and basically we're going to go up to the system and we'll go into the ignition parameters, and basically I'm using a CD box now. Everything else pretty much stayed the same. I copied all my fuel tables over. So what I want to do now is link this to, turn the key on, and I'm going to link to, and you can see that everything has failed, and basically that's because I've made the change and I don't want to run it with the settings error. So I'm going to send this file to the ECU. Now that file's there, but I like to double check, so I'm going to take myself offline, turn my key off. I'm going to wait a few seconds and to turn my key back on, and now I'm going to link where I am right now just to the ECU, and basically I'm going to pull this file in, and again I'm back to my ready to run file. So I have this pretty close to top dead center, or 14 degrees, so I am going to see if we have any live action going on when I start it. And my timing must be off. So I'm going to go out and check to see where I am. Okay, I've set the timing at 16 degrees before top dead center. It was a little bit retarded, about 2 degrees after. So we got everything kind of smoothed out. I'm going to take it on a little bit of a run. We're almost up to operating temperature right now. So at 160 degrees, we'll go into full learn mode. Fuel mixture is pretty good. My timing, that's not accurate because we're not being controlled by the ECU any longer. So basically I'm going to set up a system log, do some data logging, and go down the road and see what happens. Well, I just got back. It didn't hiccup like it has the last couple times I've had it out. So I'm basically downloading system logs right now, and I'll be taking it out again a little bit later today just to see what's going on, or if it maybe cured itself. Well, not cured itself, but I'll at least know that it's probably the Dual Sync Distributor, not the MSD box, not the fuel system. It ran strong. I took it up, I redlined it a couple times, cutting out at 7,000 RPM, which is where I have my ignition cutout set. It did not miss a lick. So I will keep investigating. Sometimes things just don't work out like you want them to. I was getting set to go back out yesterday and do some more testing, and I went to the front of the car and I looked and saw a little green puddle. Antifreeze. I ended up getting a pinhole in a radiator tube. So I pulled the radiator out yesterday. It's going to be down for a few days while it gets fixed. Weekend's coming up. I got other things to do. Be driving the Mustang. So the Cobra's sitting up there. And just to let you know that it is out. Its radiator is out and everything else is there. So I'm going to wait, and I'm at a standstill. But I will continue. I did speak with MSD this morning, and the Dual Sync Distributor is on its way to get tested. I was told that they had never heard of it, the issue that I had, but said they'll be able to check it out, and it's definitely going to be cheaper than buying a new distributor at $410. So I'm going to wait and see what happens. It's going to be a few weeks before I get it back, so that'll allow me time to get the radiator back in, get the car tested, and do some really good running and driving, and hopefully the problem is gone and they'll find a problem, and then we can kind of correlate the two. I will say that the crank trigger signal on the HP is registering solid. So it must be dropping the cam signal off of the distributor. I'm not sure, but that's my guess at this point. So we're going to have another part 2. So stay tuned.